Welcome to the new Hop Order presented by HPA, our series which explores what's happening at the very forefront of hop innovation, from breeding and processing through to brewing. Great beer starts with trust in your recipe, your process, and your ingredients, which is why the sensory and technical experts at Haas developed Sensory Plus to deliver hop products with proven consistency in both flavour and chemistry. To talk more about proactive quality assurance during hop harvesting and processing, I'm joined today by Haas's Sensory Manager, Jeff Dailey, and HPA Australia and New Zealand Sales Manager, Michael Capaldo. Guys, welcome.
Hi.
Good to see you too, guys, and thanks for joining us. Jeff, awesome to have you on the show. For our listeners new to the world of international hop growers, give me the Haas story in a nutshell.
Yeah. So Haas was started by John I. Haas, thus the name, in 1914. After working as a teenager in Germany, John came to the West Coast, starting in California, then moving up to Yakima, trying to bring brewers the highest quality cluster on the planet, which at that point just meant seedless. But we continued to expand acreage in Toppenish to the point where we became the largest private farm and hop grower in the world. In the 1970s, after investing heavily in advanced extractor technologies, we caught the notice of John Barth and his family from Nuremberg, and they bought us out, starting the Barth Haas Group. After that, about a decade later, we joined with Hop Products Australia to continue to expand. Early 2000s, about 2003, I believe, we partnered as a joint venture to form the hop breeding company, which is where Citra and Mosaic and Crush and Dulcita all come from. We expanded out into smaller and smaller craft by opening Simply Hops, which became Barth Haas X, and buying Yakima Valley hops, and eventually starting Barth Haas China about 2019 or 2020 with 2 campuses in China to serve that market.
Yeah, fantastic. So not a small player by any means there.
Not by any mean.
Jeff, we're here today. We're going to talk about Sensory Plus. This is a process that Haas developed to ensure, I guess, proven consistency across hop products. Can you give me the rundown? Talk me through how this works?
Yeah, so I joined in 2019, coming out of a master's focusing on modern sensory science techniques. And I came to Haas working with Lori Labrie, who had been managing the raw material program for 4 years. She knew what she was doing, but she also recognized that the brewing world was changing with the needs for craft brewers. So we transitioned from her program of "that's Citra, it smells like Citra" into something that's more descriptive, something that'll help us attain more granular detail regarding the diversity of aromas that exist within all the lots of Citra, and every other 70 variety that we work with. Part of this was, unlike in some places, we have a lot of customers that come to Yakima during our harvest to do what is called selection. They have their own needs as individuals, and it's our goal to provide the highest level of service and efficiency when it comes to getting them to select lots. So by having more granular detail on our end and collecting information from customers in terms of what they need, we created a system, kind of a reciprocating system where we're providing feedback to each other in order to make that process more efficient and make the consistency tighter. Because then our combined sensory between brewer and broker, we send back to the growers, and all of us are partnering together to create a more consistent product across all of our varieties. From there, taking into account all of our products, Lupamax, Incognito, Spectrum, amongst others, we look at the individual lots, their descriptive sensory that's formed by my trained panel of about 30 people, and pick lots that are that complement each other or contrast each other in a positive direction in order to take multiple lots and create, via advanced flavor science, these more consistent blends that work together in order to be consistent based on that sensory outcome. Mm-hmm. And we can guarantee the sensory outcome being consistent because with our brewing capabilities on site, for every batch of Lupamax, we brew with every single batch every year and have been doing so since 2019. And so we've got a little bit of history that kind of supports our premise that we are creating a very consistent product. In fact, probably the most consistent product that's out there.
Yeah, fantastic. Michael, it's my understanding, I guess, that only a few Australian and New Zealand breweries are eligible for US hop selections. How does HPA guarantee access to these highly consistent US hops?
Sure. Well, it's eligible and available to find the time and resources to come out to Yakima, right?
Mm.
So, because it's not cheap to get out there in the first place. So, HPA is a regional representative of the Haas group. So we qualify for selections of the material that we're buying. So when we're going out there and we're buying Citra and Mosaic are two big ones that we talk about, bred through the hop breeding company. We grow on our own farms ourselves, and we have part of the ownership rights. So when we're actually doing selections of this, we're actually doing selections on behalf of customers big and small in Australia. So there really are very few who actually make the eventual trip. But the important thing for us is to be able to provide a level playing field for these great hops, so that if you're not coming up to Yakima, and if you don't qualify with the minimum buy to be able to get onto a sensory table, we can still guarantee that the quality of the product you're going to get, has been past Jeff's sensory team, and Jeff's sensory team has been a part of the process. But we've also got customers, Australian customers who are out there. So we've got that brewing knowledge, and we've also got HPA management and sales team over there. And HPA management and salespeople, well, the ones who get out to Yakima all come from brewing backgrounds. We've all run breweries. We've got master brewers and et cetera in our course. So we really get a fantastic cluster of diversity, and combine that with the knowledge that John I. Haas give us. And it's all about looking for what is success in the selection table. So Jeff was talking about, his sensory panel of people, but also about, Citra isn't just Citra. There is, you can get very granular on what you want to get out of Citra, right? So we look at the previous purchasing behavior of what we've bought, down maybe the farms that we've been purchasing from or the regions. Really important is the screening of analytics that we receive. So might be alphas, oils, hop storage index, extraneous matter, etc. But we also combine that with some pre-screening from Jeff's sensory team to make sure that the lots that actually get presented to us on the table have already been pre-screened. So yeah, we put a lot of work and effort into it. Does that answer your question?
It does. I think it's. I think people just want to, go out to Yakima Valley, and but it's great to know that all hops are selected extremely expertly before they even make it to Australia. So fantastic, Jeff. How does Sensory Plus inform which bale lots Haas presents for HPA to select from?
That's a great question, because the fact that it relates to some of the things that Michael was saying. We know, based on the past, and the feedback from Michael, from management, from OJ, exactly what Citra is expected to be, what Mosaic is expected to be by Australian brewers. And so we look at both the contracts that have been put in, and we always put on the table basically lots that represent 2 to 3x what that contract is, in order to provide a diversity of samples. We do that especially because our nose is not Michael's nose. We have our internal biases, our great training, and we have an understanding to some degree of Michael's funky nose, especially the last couple of years of doing intake on Galaxy with him. We kind of understand what he's looking for, but we do want to put that diversity out there because we don't want to shove the wrong lot on customers. So we do our initial screening. We look at the varieties. We look at the clustering of varieties. One of the techniques that we use statistically based on our sensory is to show that there are, say, 5 consistent types of Citra, and we know that HPA is looking for an 80% blend of type 3 and 20% of type 2, and we make sure that that's well represented. On top of that, OJ has been gracious enough to have me involved in those selections to support and provide some guidance as well. And so we can say, based on the work that we do for products like Lupamax, to blend 100,000 pounds, multiple lots together to create something consistent, that we can make recommendations for the selections to say, well, that lot really isn't going to work with that lot when you blend them together. And that way we are taking multiple steps to make sure that the best pellets are coming to the brewers of Australia.
Sounds like such a wonderful collaboration and a partnership there. Michael, in Australia, HPA have invested heavily in new facilities and process updates to, I guess, increase throughput and improve quality. Where does Sensory Plus factor into that element?
Well, Sensory Plus is certainly a key component of it. But but you really have to get the process right from the start. And when I say from the start, I mean from the on-farm process. And I think that we're going to talk a lot about the effort we've put into Sensory Plus and the sensory side of things. But if you don't put an equal amount of effort into the on-farm side of things, the processing side of things, from the pickers to the kiln floors to the baling to analytics, by the time you get to sensory, you're not going to have a whole lot of great material. So I think our biggest improvement has really been from the farm to the end of the sensory process. So back in, I believe it was 2019, we commissioned our newest picking shed. And in 2025, HPA commissioned Hop Central, which is an incredible state-of-the-art pelleting facility in Myrtleford. And there have been so many process improvements in the packaging, and I think the brewers can relate to what process and packaging, what process improvement in packaging, and how it can impact on the final product. Because most brewers have canning lines or kegging lines, and they understand that if they improve their processes along the line, they're going to get more longevity out of their product. So, Hop Central has certainly helped us get more longevity out of our product, or will help us, because we're only near 2 now, but we can already see our retention samples are performing better than they have on previous pack lines. But getting back to the actual sensory side of things, we've got this enormous crop. And, let's say it's all great, but there are going to be nuances on there. And what does true to type look like for Galaxy? That's our biggest crop, for example. So punchy passion fruit, complex citrus, and juicy peach, right? And you can have one of those characteristics or 2 of those characteristics present, but one of them not there. So being able to identify, first of all, is there true to type? So if there's no true to type character in that sensory and the panel selects that, then that bale isn't actually going to make the cut to go into the Galaxy blend. One thing we've learned over time is that if you get true to type material and non-true to type material and blend them together, you're not going to get true to type material. You're going to get not true to type, and that makes bad beer. And, if we're going to be trusted to sell you beer, we need to help you make consistent true to type beer. So getting that bale screening right through the Sensory Plus process is important, and is really performing well.
Yeah, nice. Jeff, both HPA and Haas have been conducting their own in-house brewing validation. You mentioned this earlier. What trends are you seeing since applying Sensory Plus to the Australian crops?
Yeah, so we've seen a great improvement from the early days. I started in 2019, and we started doing brewing trials and reviewing every batch of pellets that came. And we did that year over year until 2023, when OJ first invited me down to start the process of bringing the team up to speed, starting with just more advanced training to look for what a non-conforming product looked like, and then using that information to go back to the farm. Because like Michael said, really the great gains have been in early process, both targeting fields that are consistently producing non-conforming product, looking at irrigation and fertility practices in order to basically bring out the best of Galaxy in all the diverse growing regions. From 23, 24, we went in hard and started doing a lot more sensory. 25 was the year where we had made enough progress with training, doing a week of training with the whole intake team ahead of time, getting all of the samples lined up, looking forward to the commissioning of Hop Central. And then the final step is taking that group of sensory information and validating based on the number of people whether or not true to type character was there, and going through the process of building actual recipes for the Galaxy, where we consistently went through and paired up hundreds of kilos of hops at a time to make sure that those batches, those lots were synergizing appropriately to bring out the true to type character of Galaxy. And we've just seen incremental progress since 2023, and especially the last 2 years, where we're getting up to the best crop that we've seen of Galaxy from American brewers. That's their feedback at this point.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jeff and Michael. It's great to get an insight into the Sensory Plus process and its various applications. Brewers, if you'd like to get your hands on some top quality US or Australian hops, be sure to talk to your HPA rep ASAP. And stay tuned for more episodes in the new Hop Order series presented by HPA, looking at the latest hop innovations. Jeff, Michael, thanks for joining me.
Happy to be here. Cheers.
Cheers, guys. Thanks.